If you like action-packed skirmish wargamings for brand new players or veterans, we have the game for you.
SMG in the window!
Hey, welcome back to Mark's Game Room, and today we're going to give you our review of our new favorite set of skirmish wargame rules called One-Hour Skirmish Wargames. You might have seen it when we played it with George Luz Jr., son of everyone's favorite Band of Brothers comedian George Luz. He had never played a wargame before, which is why we chose these rules. Here's what he had to say about the rules.
Well, hey, I'll tell you, it was really cool. I was a little apprehensive because I thought that, it'd kind of be over my head as far as the details and things like that. But actually, it was pretty easy to follow. And, you kind of get used to the card game aspect of it. And I'm sure after a couple of games, you pick up all the rules. So it was a lot of fun. Plus, we won, so.
One-Hour Skirmish Wargames is a true-scale skirmish game. So in this game, one figure is one man. It's truly a skirmish game.
Right, and today we're going to judge it on sequence of play, combat resolution, fun factor, and presentation, and also our famous bonus round. The sequence of play in One-Hour Skirmish Wargames is based on a deck of cards. Each side has their own deck. The first thing that happens is you determine which side is going. They each flip a card. High card goes first. That side then flips another card, and the number on the card is the number of actions they get. They'll expend all those actions moving or shooting figures. The other side will then repeat the process. This keeps going until a joker is pulled. When a joker is pulled, that immediately ends the turn. You then move to a morale check phase to see if one side fails and the game ends. If not, you then flip cards to see if figures that are wounded recover. You then start over again. Okay, so we're going to do our famous pros and cons. Carl, what did you think of the sequence of play in this game? Pro or con?
I'm going to give it a pro, Mark. In this game, the sequence of play is never stale and it's never predictable. So you really capture that feel of a skirmish being chaotic. Sometimes your turn is two guys moving. Sometimes you get to move all of them and shoot with everybody and deal a lot of damage to the enemy. And sometimes, just sometimes, the Joker comes up at the most inconvenient time.
I can agree with that. That's really awesome. All right, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a caveat pro, which is it stays interesting. It is very fast, which is what you want in a skirmish game, and it's easily understood. But it can swing so wildly that it can leave some players unsatisfied, where you could have turns, if you play the rules as written, where the turn is a move, and you get the Joker, and it's reset entirely back to the beginning.
I'll agree with that. All right, so I agree. For me, it's definitely a pro because it's lively and it's fast. And an average game, I don't know, I think it takes us like an hour and a half maybe, right? So an average game is like maybe an hour and a half. You can't play with too many figures with this sequence of play. So like 14 figures on a side is max. So you're really going to do skirmish. But everything else, I agree. It's fast, it's fun paced, it's exciting. The jokers can come up at the wrong time, which is chaotic. But even if you don't like that, as you're saying, Matt, it's very easily adjustable. So in general, I'm pro. I think that's 3 pros.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome.
For combat resolution in One-Hour Skirmish Wargames, the system is based around opposed card draw. With shooting, if you have a model who is attempting to shoot at another, they will draw a card, the defender will draw a card, and if the attacker's card is better than the defender's card, then you'll knock over the defender's miniature. At the end of a turn, you go to a casualty resolution phase, where you determine what happened to the casualty that was knocked over earlier. You'll then draw cards, and if you get a red card, that model is actually dead, and if you get a black card, they were just suppressed and they're standing back up again. For combat resolution, I would give One-Hour Skirmish Wargames a pro. I think that the combat resolution fits perfectly into the kind of game that One-Hour Skirmish Wargames is. It's very fast, it's very easily modifiable, and it has a lot of cinematic feel to it. It's very deadly when it needs to be, and it's easily modified, so if you want to add rifle grenades or machine guns or what have you, there are enough levers for you to be able to do that.
Cool. Yeah.
What do you think, Carl?
I would also give this one a pro. I love how in this game you don't necessarily know the results of your fire until the end of the turn. So you might have a turn where your guys are sweeping, advancing, and firing and knocking guys down, and then at the end of the turn, oh no, it turns out they were mostly suppressed. They're getting back up and they're going to open fire at you. It creates a really neat narrative, and I think this game really excels at creating that kind of storytelling in game form.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think, Mark?
I agree 100%, right? Like, I'm all about games that have good narrative, and I think this combat resolution adds to that. One thing you mentioned was about suppression, right? Many games have complicated or rules about suppression. This doesn't call it suppression, but in effect, that's what's happening. You shoot at a guy, you beat his card, he goes down. He could be dead, or he might stand up, but he doesn't do anything until that joker gets pulled. So in a sense, his head is down, and maybe his head never gets up, but it's good. We kind of like that. And it's just fast. It's just really fast play, and I really enjoy it. And I think we started playing this with like no kind of hopes that it would be great, just kind of really easy. But I think it's grown on us, and the combat resolution is a real part of it.
For sure.
So that's 3 more pros for 1 hour skirmish war games.
Our next category is what we're calling the fun factor. The fun factor is whether we had a good time or did we get bogged down with the rules that kind of suck the life out of the game. The fun factor on this one, I would give a pro. This game is light enough that you can play it with anybody, and it's fast enough that the game is always moving. There's never a lot of downtime or trying to figure out complicated rules. And the little modifications that you can make for different characters or different weapons really make it flexible and fun. One thing I've been thinking about with this game is how versatile it is. You can play Napoleonics, you can play future stuff. I've been thinking about using this for Star Wars. There's just a lot of opportunity to mess around with it. What did you think, Mark?
Star Wars. I think it's great. I would definitely give it a pro for fun factor. And for me, fun factor is really the first time I play a game. If I play it the very first time, and even if I don't get all the rules, if it's fun, then I'm coming back for more no matter what. Because the more fun I have, the more willing I'll let tough rules go, or rules I don't agree with. Like if it's fun, I'll let them go, I'll live with it a bit, and then the game will grow on me. And this game just kind of grew on me right out of the gate, right? Matt?
Yeah, I think this game really knows what it's about. It knows it's a small, fast, loose, easily modifiable game, and it plays into its strengths really well. I think it had me from the get-go, and exactly, it lets you overlook a lot of the little rough edges.
Right, and play Star Wars. All right, 3 pros.
All right.
Now we're going to talk about presentation of the rules, and I thought the 1 Hour Skirmish Wargames book is a really nice little book. It's soft bound. There's not a lot of glossy pictures, but I found the text very engaging. The rules kind of talk back to you a little bit to have some fun. And each chapter is divided by time period. So you get the rules for that time period and a couple scenarios, and then it moves on. So I found it not glossy, but pleasant and well put together. What did you think, Matt?
Yeah, it definitely didn't have those sort of Warlord or Battlefront very glossy miniatures doing glorious battle photos, but it definitely gets the job done. It has a lot of diagrams for some of the scenarios. It has maps. Mm-hmm. The actual layout is very professional, not a lot of spelling errors. So overall, I think it really does the job. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I really enjoyed how it was written in a very casual style. It's clear that the author is a gamer and he wrote for gamers. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Right. I think, this rule book or this rule set is kind of like a kit because it's very adaptable. It very much wants you to add your own spin, and that's what the rule book kind of felt like as well. So I give it a pro. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I'll concur. I also give it a pro.
Great. Carl?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All right. 3 thumbs up for presentation. All right. Here's the famous bonus round where we can give pros or cons for anything else we think we have not covered. I am going to stick with the trend and go with another pro. The game has characteristics for individual figures, which gives it a little more depth than Chrome. When we were playing in our game, We had George Luz be lucky, so it was hard for him to die. And we had Lieutenant Welch be inspirational. And that was just nice. It gave the game a little flavor, and it gives the game a little more legs. Carl, what do you got?
I've been very positive about this game. I would give what I would think would be a conditional con, something that for certain groups might be a con for you, which is this is a very light game. It's a very simple, it's a very fun game, but that might preclude it from being something that you play all the time. I don't think this is the sort of game that is a lifestyle game that you can play these enormous campaigns of, because at a certain point, there's just not that much meat on these bones. So, you may want to save it for a once in a while type of game.
It's also just to go off that, Carl. If you're playing a bigger campaign, and somehow within that campaign there's a small moment you want to model, you could go to this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? Which is kind of good. All right, what do you got, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the new bandwagon of little con in the bonus round.
Oh, man.
I know. It can't be perfect. People will have thoughts.
That's true.
So mine is that I think while it does the skirmish feel very well, it doesn't really capture any period in any particular granular detail. It doesn't really go into the distinction between weapon types particularly well, or distinction between factional flavors, unless you build that in yourself.
Right.
So it's a toolkit. It does what you want it to, but that's not really built in. And it's also a little bit limited in the scale of the kinds of games you want to do with it. It's a skirmish game. It's supposed to be. So if you wanted to run it with 30 models aside, it's going to really churn and slow it down. It's not really what it's meant for.
True. Right. It really, really is skirmish.
Yeah.
Which I want to get on my high horse for a second, but I really like that about it, because in our hobby, I often hear the term bandied around. This is a skirmish game. And really what the people are saying is this is a game with individual figures. It doesn't matter if there's 300 of them or 30 of them. It's a skirmish game. This really is skirmish. You're only going to get a squad on a side to fight a skirmish. You got anything else? One last thing I just want to point out, because I had a comment on it in our last review, is movement. And basically how movement works is for one action you move 6 inches. And if you pay 3 more actions, that same model can go 3 more. So kind of innovative. I kind of like it, but basically simple. That's how movement works. So if you have any other questions about things we're not covering, put it in the comments below. So the final total is
10 pros and 2 cons.
no, more than
it's
10.
13 pros.
How many sections are there?
4 times 3 is 12.
4 in the
Fourth
bonus.
and the bonus?
Yeah.
Oh, 4 and the bonus.
Yeah.
Wow, so 13
So
and 2.
13
Yeah.
and 2.
Okay, 13 pro, 2 con. That means we recommend.
Highly recommend.
Highly recommend.
Yes, for sure.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Please put some comments. Tell us if you like our reviews. And don't forget, like and subscribe. See you around.